Yeah, can you hear me now? Voice? Right. Let me share my screen. Yep. Let's get started, guys. So, welcome back to our 30-day short-term training program designed to take you from Python fundamentals to artificial intelligence. So, I'll be a host and guide throughout this exciting journey. I'm absolutely thrilled to have all of you here as we embark on a transformative learning experience together. Before we dive in, let me introduce myself. I'm Akhil, and I bring up 4 years of industry experience working on multiple AI projects as well as delivering corporate training sessions. Now, let me address a common question many of you might have. Who should work in the field of artificial intelligence? I hope my question is clear, right? So, the answer is very simple. Anyone holding with a degree can work in the field of artificial intelligence. So you may come from a non-computer background like mechanical, civil, biotech, life sciences, then pharma, accounts, say arts, or any other discipline. You are eligible. In short, if you hold a degree, you can step into the field of artificial intelligence. I hope that clears up your question. The primary goal of this program is to provide you with practical knowledge and skills in Python, then exploratory data analysis. So, 1 minute. So, we'll be starting with Python. Post understanding the basics of Python, we'll start what is EDA, exploratory data analysis. So when you are given with the data, how we are analyzing the data, we'll be understanding in this module. Post understanding EDA, we'll start with cleaning part. Data might have any sort of issues, so we are going to clean the data. Then, after understanding data cleansing topics, we'll move to ML primer. What is machine learning? What are the types of machine learning? How the model is being trained. Everything we are going to cover under ML primer. Then we'll understand the two main important algorithms under machine learning. One is k-means and the other one is KNN, k nearest neighbor. After understanding or after getting a clear information about these two algorithms, we'll also work on two real-time use cases, one on k-means and one on KNN. Then we'll move to deep learning algorithms. And nowadays, AI, as AI is ruling the world, wherever you are going to hear any neural network. So this is the foundation. ChatGPT is again a neural network. Google Gemini. Each and every deep learning model has a base of neural network only. So in this 30 days program, we are going to understand ANN, then CNN, followed by RNN. Post understanding the concepts, we'll also work on the hands-on. We'll be doing 3 real-time projects, one with respect to each algorithm. Finally, we'll also understand two real-time projects. Taking the entire flow, we'll try to do two real-time projects in class. So this is our training schedule and we'll just implement this. So what are we going to achieve? By end of this program, you will have gained a solid foundation in Python programming, insights into data analysis and cleansing, hands-on experience with machine learning and deep learning algorithms. I mean, widely used algorithms, K-means, KNN, neural networks, and all. And finally, the confidence in tackling real-world AI projects. So this is generally lacking in our, real time. So we are going to achieve the confidence. With respect to career advantages, this training opens up numerous opportunities, such as smooth career transitions into tech, then career advancements into AI-related roles, as well as skills and confidence needed to crack technical interviews. Then, to get the most out of this program, I encourage all of you to actively participate by attending the sessions on daily basis. Then ask questions during the sessions in the chat. But friends, remember one thing, learning is a two-way process. So your active involvement will make this journey even more rewarding. And when it comes to feedback, your feedback is invaluable to us. Please feel free to share your thoughts and suggestions throughout the program to help us continuously improve our experience. So, what are we waiting for? Let's get started. Yeah. So, together we will unlock the world of Python, then followed by machine learning, and finally AI, artificial intelligence. So as we have discussed the program schedule, the first topic that we have is Python, a programming language, right? So what are we going to learn as part of Python programming? I'll quickly introduce what is Python. Then, after understanding what is Python, we'll go and understand the features of Python. What are the important features does Python has? We are going to understand them. Followed by software installation. So for software installation, we generally don't recommend the basic Python IDE. So we'll be installing a new software called Anaconda. So I'll tell you how you have to install Anaconda, friends. And I'll be coming up with a separate video how Anaconda to be installed. And then the basics of Python, variables and operators, followed by data types in Python, then conditional statements or control statements, loops for performing a task multiple times, functions, and finally NumPy and Pandas library. So we are going to cover all these topics as part of this program, right? So give me a minute. Right. So what is this? This is called as Spyder IDE. So for time being, IDE, assume IDE as a tool. So what exactly is Spyder? Before I uh, introduce you to Spyder, let me you know, let me talk about Anaconda. So as I told you, any programming language, you know, has to be practiced, and moreover, we require software. So this software that we are going to install in our case is Anaconda Navigator. So open a browser and keep it as Anaconda Navigator download. Then click on enter. You'll get multiple links, guys. Out of all these links, just click on Anaconda Navigator, the first link. Then click on free download towards your top right of your screen. Just scroll down. It will ask you to provide email, but just ignore it by clicking on skip registration. Then it will redirect you to one more page where you will find different installers. For different operating systems, we have the links. So in my case, I'm using Windows operating system, and the link is here. Once after clicking on the link, the .exe file will be added to your downloads. So accordingly, depending on the OS, the operating system that you are using, you have to click on the suitable link. So especially for Anaconda Navigator, I'll come up with a separate video how you have to install Anaconda and all, right? So for time being, I'll just proceed. Let me open my Anaconda. In the search bar, keep it as Anaconda Navigator, then click on open. It will take around 1 minute of time. Just hold on. Excuse me. Right, it's done. So this is my Anaconda, and you see there are different sections towards our left side of a screen. So in the home section, you will find different IDEs, nothing but different tools, integrated development environments. Okay, so what is an IDE? We'll discuss later. What? Let me just walk you through all these IDEs. We have Jupyter Lab, then Jupyter Notebook, then Spyder. So I was referring to a tool called Spyder, right? So we can see Spyder here. Then next to Spyder we have Orange, then Gluevis, even R Studio is available as one of the IDE, and finally PyCharm. So you can use any one of these IDE. Initially you will have install button. When you click on install, that particular IDE gets installed, and then this install button gets converted as launch button. So I'll just show you for Spyder. You see, there is a launch button. If you click on launch, it shows that it is launching Spyder. Alright, so Spyder is one of the IDE where we can come up with Python program. We can derive our code. Right. So this area that you see is called scripting pane. I'll just walk you through Spyder. Then I'll start what is Python programming and all. So this area that you see is called scripting pane, where we write our code, Python code. Then this pane is called help pane, where we can get the documentations of multiple or say functions, modules, libraries and all. Next to help pane, we have variable explorer pane. In the variable explorer pane, you will find all the different types of variables used in that particular source code script. What is a variable? We'll understand. Then next to variable explorer pane, we have plots pane, where we get the plots. All the plots get resided in this pane. Then next to plots pane, we have files pane. So this is referring to our files present in the current working directory. Right. Then This area is console where we find the output. For each and every line of code that you are executing, you'll get the output in the console. Then on the top left, we have some few important icons. I'll just tell you them, then we'll start Python programming. Right. The first icon is new file. So whenever you want a new file, just click on this first icon. So that is automatically going to add a new file to our scripting pane. So again, you can remove this and start typing your code. Then next to new file icon, we have open file icon. Open file talks about you can open any source code or Python script using this open file option. Let me show you through. Just click on the icon, then navigate to that particular location, right? Then next to open file, we have two file options which are used for saving. So in order to save the current file, go and use the third icon. In order to save all the files that are open, you just click on fourth icon. Next to save all files, we have run file option or run file icon, which is for running all the lines present in the script. So either you can run a single line or you can run all the lines together at a time. That is possible in Python. So the fifth one is run file icon. Then I'll ignore these two. The seventh one that we have here is run selection or current line icon. So if I want to run this line, I have to select it first, or just keep your cursor on the particular line, then click on this icon, which is like I followed by an arrow mark pointing towards right. So either if you want to say if you have selected a particular line, or say you want to execute 3 lines or 4 lines, still you can go and use the same icon, right? So this is a quick introduction and overview of Spyder. Now let us get started with the main topic. What is Python programming, or what is Python programming language? Everyone started using Python. Generally when I ask people who come from different backgrounds, say especially from people coming from non CS backgrounds, non IT background, so the when I say programming language, they are moving far to me. The reason is no one is interested in learning programming language, but seriously guys, that is not the case here. Python is very easy. You know why? You'll understand. I had trained more than, I'm not ready to give the number exactly, but I trained a lot of students coming from different background who doesn't know a programming language, but now they were in real time doing a project on AI or ML. For AI application or ML application, at the end of the day, you have to learn Python programming language. So without no further delay, let us understand what is this Python programming. So I'll take all of you back to 19th century, because the story has started in 19th century. So in Netherlands, there is a programmer, a Dutch programmer called Guido van Rossum. So he is the father of Python. This guy is a Dutch programmer who have started, Python programming. Then he was actually born in Netherlands. He holds a master degree in mathematics and computer science as well. Then he worked in National Research Center in the field of mathematics and computer science. So there initiated the birth of Python. Python was officially released in the year 1991, and before Python, our Guido van Rossum used to work on ABC language, and Python is actually the successor of ABC. The main question that arises in our mind is why a programming language was named with a snake name? Why? Why only a snake name? The reason is there is a very well known circus called Monty Python's Flying Circus. So this circus is very famous those days. It's around 1965 to say 1970. So this circus used to broadcast in BBC, and this circus is very famous. So our Rosam, he also taught in the same way and named his programming language as Python, so that it would gain the same attention. Right? So this is a quick history of Python. Then so I'll take you to the official site of Python, python.org, where you can see the complete information regarding Python software. We have a complete information regarding all the downloads, the release, and the upcoming dates till when this particular version will be active. All these information is present under releases. I'll just show you it. Just click on all releases. So if you see the current version, that the latest version of Python that we are using is 13.13, and it was officially released in the year 2024 October 7th. So in the next year October 1st, they are going to plan to release 3.14 version as well. So if you see, each and every version is being released in the month of October. So this is a particular, they have a goal to release, or they have a particular plan so that they'll release a particular version of Python. And they also mentioned the end of support. So probably in next year, 2025 October, will the support for 3.9 version will be done. So not only downloads, you have the complete documentation, and we have a community for Python. You can contribute to the Python community. The success stories are over here under success story section, and the news, events. So whenever you are free, just go through all these sections and grab some knowledge. Right. So I'm not going to discuss all the things as we are running out of time. Let us start with the versions. Python was initially launched with 1x versions. So initially 1.1 came, then 1.2 followed till 1.6. Then they have implemented, or they have added some features into the Python software. Then 2.x release came into the picture, where again the picture goes same 2.1, 2.2, then so far till 2.27. Now the new version that we are using is 3.x, where x takes again the same values, but the current version, as we understood so far, it is 3.13. And in next year we are going to Python community is going to launch 3.14, right? So what makes the difference? Features. The feature of say garbage collector might be added in 2.x and it was mixing in 1.x. So garbage collector was not added in 1.x. So when it's better if you use the upgraded version of Python day to day. In a simple term, so better use the upgraded version of Python. Then let us also understand some real-time applications of Python. So everyone is using Python. What is the actual role or how many applications? What are the different applications that can be built using Python? Let us understand them. Basic. So starting from web applications, we can come up with the gaming applications, then artificial intelligence, where we have ML applications and deep learning applications. We can perform data analysis. Then we can come up with an embedded system application, IoT. We can also visualize data using Python. Then for cyber security applications, we can use Python. For blockchain technology and robotics, if I keep on talking about the applications, I have to spend this entire 30 days of the program. So what not? For each and every application, Python was being included. Python is the language that was being added. Right? Chatbots, then VR, virtual reality. So for all these different type of applications, Python is the language being used. Then healthcare applications, there are many guys. Okay, we'll move a bit forward. So before we understand the Python features, Python is actually a mixture of features coming from different programming languages. If you see here, every one of us, or I should say majority of us, should have learned C language. C language is a functional programming language. So functional programming from C was taken and was added to Python. From C, functional programming was taken and was added to Python. In the same way, from C++, OOPS was being taken, OOPS feature, then it was being designed to Python. Then scripting programming from Perl language. So all these are different languages, guys, similar to Python, followed by modular programming language or modular programming and exceptional handling mechanisms from Modular 3. So this is again a language. Modular 3 is a language from which modular programming was taken. What is modular programming? We'll understand. So all of them we are going to understand in features of Python. Then ABC. ABC is a language. So that's what I was telling you previously. Before Python was invented, Rosam was using ABC language, and this ABC language is very easy to use. The reason is syntaxes are very simple. So this particular feature was taken from ABC and was added to Python's design. And finally, from Java, garbage collector was taken. Garbage collector feature was taken from Java and was added to Python. So in a short, or I should have given example here. So when you are trying to make a juice, what do? Initially into the mixer, you will add the fruit, then milk, then what else? Sugar. Am I right? So at the end, you'll get juice. In the same way, the important features from all the languages. So I have listed down only a few here, but the important features from different programming languages were being taken, and the output is Python. So it's like a hybrid which holds all the important features, and that is actually making Python used for each and every application, guys. Right. Now let us understand the features of Python. So what is this comment? We'll discuss later. For time being, I'll just continue with features. Then as we go on, we'll understand each and every point. As we go on, we'll understand. But I'll be slow and steady. I need the same patience from your end. Right. So the next topic that we have is features of Python. The first feature is easy to learn and use. Python is very easy. Akhil, are you serious? Yup, I'm serious. Even if you come from a non-IT background, even if you don't have any knowledge on programming languages so far, still you can learn Python. The reason is simple syntaxes. The syntaxes that you're going to learn as part of Python are simple because they are user friendly. So all of us can understand English, right? Yes, we do. So these syntaxes are in English language. I'll prove it in the coming topics. So Python is very easy to learn. Then the second feature is it's a freeware and open source software. What is freeware? Freeware is nothing but it's free of cost. You need not pay anything. So you can easily download the software. And open source is you can contribute to the Python community. Whatever the source code that is available in Python community, you can use it, you can modify it as per your requirement. So from that case, there are a lot of Python distributions. What are these Python distributions? So I'll not talk much about these Python distributions for time being, but we'll understand in future. So the default Python distribution that we are using is C Python. Got it, guys? So whenever you're downloading the default Python, it holds nothing but C Python. The distribution that we have is C Python. What is the C Python? It's nothing but the interpreter Python virtual machine is written in C language. So what is an interpreter? Ignore. For timing, you just ignore everything. Right? So the second feature of Python is telling that it is free to download. Free of cost and open source, which means anyone can contribute to Python's community. They can modify the source code according to their use. Then they can contribute to the community. Then the third one, it is platform independent. What is this platform independent feature of Python? So when you write a Python program, for example, this is my program. Line 1, line 2, line 3, line 4, line 5, line 6. Assume. So I am going to store this program. So when you store this, you have to store with a name So in our case, it is variables is the name. And remember guys, a source code or a Python script is always have an attention or extension. It is py. It's dot py. For example, if I want to store this file with name abc, so it will be abc.py. So .py represents it's a Python script. Now let us understand what is this platform independent. So this Python program that we have come up or that we have built so far, it runs on every OS operating system. For example, I come up with this abc.py in Windows. That doesn't mean abc.py, this particular Python script doesn't work in Mac. It also works in Mac. The same code works in different operating systems as well. So that is nothing but platform independent. Right. Then dynamically typed programming language. So this is very important feature of Python, I should say. The reason is programming languages, I'll keep it like this. A programming language should either be dynamically typed programming language or statically typed programming language. What is this dynamically typed? What is statically typed? Static type. First, I'll talk about static typed. In static typed programming languages, you have to declare or the end user have to declare the data type. Akhil, I did not understand this. Can you please explain with an example? Yep. So, for example, I want to store 10 in X. Okay, 10 is an integer, right? So, I have to explicitly mention int. I am telling to the interpreter that X holds only an integer. That is nothing but static typed programming languages. Okay, whereas in dynamically typed programming languages, we need not mention the data type. Not required. And simple. X is equals to 10. Then who is going to fix the data type? Interpreter. Python interpreter will fix this interpreter, the data type. And under dynamically program languages, the best example is Python. Whereas under statically typed programming languages, you'll have C, C++, even Java. So this is a very important feature of Python, guys. So we need not explicitly mention the data types. Right? During the runtime, the interpreter gives or assigns the data type for the values, the variables. Then Python is a high-level programming language. What is this high-level programming language? It's nothing but programmer-friendly language. So as I told you, the syntaxes are like English language. If you are good at English, no one can stop you learning from Python. Trust me, it's very simple. The syntaxes are very easy. Then comes the important one, which is interpreted language. Right. So a programming language, right. A programming language can be either a compiler language or interpreter language. Interpreted language. So, what is this compiled programming language or what is an interpreted programming language? Let us understand the difference. In compiler language, the source code gets converted to machine language, then the execution happens. Whereas in an interpreted language, the execution happens line by line. So as we have assumed that if we have 10 lines of code, the execution starts from line 1, then 2, 3, 4, so on, till line 10. So all these lines will be interpreted, then the interpreter at the runtime converts the code into machine language, and the machine language is nothing but zeros or ones, and these zeros and ones is easily executed by machine, nothing but computer, which ultimately gives you the output. But I would like to explain what exactly happens in case of Python. How does Python interpreter work? A Python interpreter has two main steps. One is compiler and PVM. Compiler. So this is an additional step that is actually happening in case of Python. Okay, so for example, I have a .py file, and this .py file, when it was executed, so this get initially converted to .pyc, nothing but bytecode, nothing but bytecode. So this conversion to bytecode will be done by compiler. Then this bytecode file will be executed by PVM, Python virtual machine, where it gets converted to zeros, ones. And this is easily executed by computer. Once the computer executes this machine language, it sends the output, it displays the output. So this is the actual flow happens in the backend of code execution. When you run a code, or when you write, or when you execute the complete file, the initially .py file gets converted to .pyc file, which is nothing but bytecode file, and this bytecode file gets interpreted and converted to zeros and ones, which is understandable by machine, and these zeros and ones can be executed by a computer and displays the output. So this is the actual process behind the interpreter. Then Python supports both functional programming as well as object programming. So it supports both functional programming language as well as object-oriented programming. What is functional programming? What is object-oriented programming? Functional-oriented programming especially focuses on functions. What are functions? For time being, assume function is nothing but a block of code or lines of code. So these lines of code or block of code get executed in the backend when we call a function. We'll discuss more about functions in the functions topic. So the main advantage of functions is reusability. We can use a function for n number of times in our script, in our code. So Python is actually supporting functional oriented, it supports functional oriented programming. Then it also supports object oriented programming, which focuses on objects and classes. So this is again a version oops. So there are multiple objects, and we can also derive our code or come up with the code using classes. We'll talk as we go on. Next to object oriented programming language, we have modular programming language. So this modular programming language, as I discussed earlier, this was taken from Modula 3 programming language. Okay, so modular programming is nothing but you are say if you have a code, you can divide your code into modules. So this is module 1, this is module 2, this is module 3, 4, so on. You can divide your code into n number of modules, and you can work on each and every module for a particular task. So Python supports modular programming. This particular feature was being extracted from Modula 3, a very widely famous programming language. And finally, we have rich libraries. Again, what is a library? In general, library is nothing but collection of books. Am I right? Yes. But in Python, library is nothing but collection of modules and functions. Okay, Python has n number of libraries. Just because of these rich libraries, your task gets, the time for doing your specific task gets completely reduced. It is making our work very easy grow. Right. So these are the important features of Python. Once again, I'll have a quick recap on the features of Python. It's easy to learn and use because of the syntaxes. Then followed by freeware and open source, which means free of cost. Python software doesn't, we need not pay anything. So it does not charge us. We can easily or we can freely download the software. Then anyone can contribute to the Python community. Platform independent. So whatever might be the operating system, we can run our .py files, nothing but our script code files. And Python is a dynamically typed programming language, which means we need not explicitly mention the type of the data. It was handled by the interpreter. High level programming language, which is nothing but English like language. The syntaxes are similar to English language. Python is an interpreted language, which means each and every line is executed one by one. Then it supports both function oriented as well as object oriented programming. We can also divide our entire program into separate modules, which is nothing but modular programming. So we can divide our programming language, I mean the script, into n number of modules. And finally, the last one is rich libraries. There are n number of libraries which help us to complete our task in minimal time. So these are the important features of Python, guys. I'll just proceed to the next topic, and this is the basic or the foundations of Python, and I require your complete attention from now. The first topic that we have is identifiers and variables. What is an identifier, or what is a variable? Right. Let us understand what is an identifier first. Then we'll talk about variables. So identifiers are nothing but names. Names for what? Names for what? Hmm. Names for variables, functions, classes, modules, objects, etc. When you are coming up with your code or when you are building your source code, Python script, you know, you will come up with multiple variables. You will have your own variables. You will use multiple functions. Or if you are using oops, you'll define your own classes. What is a class? We'll understand this, not now. You'll also have multiple modules imported. So all these together are called as identifiers. For example, there is a module called math, which is designed for mathematical operations. For example, there is a right, there is a function called square root. Okay, so this square root, when you pass a value inside this function, it gives you the square root of the number. Okay, so where is the square root present? The square root is present inside math module. So this math is a identifier. The name for a module is nothing but identifier. Or when you are defining your function, when you are defining, or if there is a already existing function like print, print is an identifier. Clear? So let us proceed to the next topic, that is variables. What is a variable? In general, what is a variable? Variables are nothing but memory pointers. It's a container for storing data. Okay, for example, I want to store my age. That doesn't mean I'm 20. Okay, just as an example. So I want to store 20. In order to store 20, I need a container. That container is a variable. Memory pointers. So in the memory, X will hold a value of 20. How simple it is. If you remember our school days, we used to write, in our books, X is equals to 5, Y is equals to 3. I hope you remember, right? So in the same way, when you write the same lines in a script, it becomes a variable. X is a variable, Y is a variable. X holds the value of 5, whereas Y holds the value of 3. So variable is nothing but a container for storing data. So Akhil, that means can we define our variable as per our requirement? No guys. There are some ground rules. There are some ground rules. According to the ground rules only you have to define your variable. If you are meeting these ground rules, yes, you can define your own variable. I mean, as per your requirement, yes. If you are violating the rule, then we'll also understand the examples for the ground rules. The first ground rule says a variable should always start with a letter or underscore. That means I can keep like this. So I'm starting my variable with a letter. Okay, this is accepted. What if I keep underscore Akhil? This is also accepted. Why? Make sure your variable starts with a letter or underscore only. Okay, you cannot use a special character or a number as your starting part of your variable. Got it right? Then the second ground rule says it can contains letters, then digits and underscores. So it can contains, a variable can contain letters or say digits or underscore. So it can be like this: a1 is equals to 5. Yes, I'm starting with a letter and I also had a digit. Is this accepted? Yes. Whereas if you keep in the opposite way, this is not accepted. The reason is I'm starting with a number where I'm violating rule 1. Got it? So that's what mentioned. That is what is mentioned in the rule 3. It cannot start with a digit, so it's not accepted. Not accepted. Make sure you start your variable with a letter or underscore only. Then variables are case sensitive. This is very, very, very important. Why? Python is case sensitive base. Python itself is case sensitive. So a is equals to 5. This is one variable accepted. A is equals to 5. This is also accepted. Are these two same? No. Small a holds a value of 5 is one variable and capital A holds value 5 is other variable. Both are not same. Case sensitive means the uppercase and lower cases are not same. This is actually very important because majority of the errors come because of the cases. So it's better if you declare all your variables in lower cases. Don't go with uppercase variables. The best practice of defining our variable is lowercase. Then no special characters except underscore. So I cannot use special characters. So this is 6. Whereas I can use underscore. Then avoid Python reserved keywords. So there are some keywords in Python and these keywords are already predefined keywords in Python and we cannot use these predefined keywords as our variable names. Okay, so as we are using 3 point, the update 3x version. So there are around 36 keywords so far, and these 36 keywords cannot be used as variables. Got it, guys? Akhil, how can we get that, or how do we know that it's a keyword or not? Hold on. I told you, right? We are going to discuss everything from scratch. Not even going to miss a point. From here, the actual coding starts, guys. You know, keep your complete focus. So I'm importing a module called keyword. What is a module? We'll discuss later. Okay. In order to get or in order to know whether it is a keyword or not, so there is a module called keyword. Import it. I told you, click on or keep your cursor on that specific line, then click on the seventh icon, which is in I shape and followed by uh, arrow mark pointing towards right side. Okay, this is for running the selected line or a selection, the current line or a selection. Then, so this keyword dot kw list will give us the list of keywords in Python 3x version. So if you see all these, let me print it to the console. If you see here, all of these are nothing but keywords. False, true, break, class, continue, def, del, elif, else, expect, finally. So all of these are keywords based. You cannot use these keywords as variable names. Then what did I do? I have given this list of keywords to a variable. So that is the reason you are able to see under variable explorer the variable and its size. I'll talk about this later. Ignore. What if you want to print these keywords? Using print function, I'm going to print all these keywords. Print is a function. So a function will have parenthesis. What is parenthesis? Nothing but regular braces. So this is a shortcut, or it's a tip to remember. So in our case, print is a function. Using print function, I'm printing all the keywords to the console. Right. So let us ignore all this. I'll come straight back to variables. We'll talk about some variables, examples, and then we'll discuss the new topics. Here is a new, I'm defining a variable with my underscore variable where I'm following the ground rules. I started with a letter and I don't have any special characters, and I want to store 10 inside my underscore variable. Will it accept? Yes, it will accept, my friend. It will. And under variable explorer, you see my underscore variable is a variable, and the value that is inside my underscore variable is 10. 10 is nothing but an integer. Did we specifically define, or did we specifically mention that my underscore variable should hold integer? No, right? The reason is dynamically typed programming language. A dynamically typed programming language, end user need not explicitly mention the type of the the type of the value, the data type. Then x is equals to 30. This is also accepted because I am not violating any rule. var underscore 1 is equal to 100. Accepted. It did not throw me any error. Total underscore amount is equals to 5,000. Good. No issues. Username is equals to Kalam. So what is this? So this is called as string, guys. We'll talk about strings later. For time being, you can ignore it. So let us understand. Yep, it accepted. Now from here, the actual example start where we are violating the cases. 2 variable is equals to 10. Will it accept? No. Invalid syntax. The reason is we are starting our variable with a number, which is against rule number 1. My hyphen variable is equals to 20. Will it accept? No. Why? Special character. The only special character that can be used is underscore. Nothing else will be accepted. So again an error. Then the third one that we have is class is equals to Python. Will it accept? No. Why? Class is a keyword. It's a reserved keyword and it cannot be accepted as a variable. Against our ground rule. Then my variable, or my space variable is equals to 50. Will it accept? No. What might be the reason here, guys? Space. Even space is considered as special character in Python. So if you remove space, yes, it accepts. That is the difference. I hope we had good time on day one itself, and we are going to continue the same journey throughout the next 30 days as well. And I request all of you to join on daily basis, you know, then clear all your doubts at the end of the session. So this is up for the day, and we'll continue from operators on Monday, on the next day. Thank you so much, guys. Have a great day.